Welcome back to the Knitting Depot. In today's tutorial, I have a different cowl than the basic cowl that we learned in the last video. This is a knit 4, purl 4 rib, and I am using Heartland yarn from Lion Brand, and it is very soft. It's 100% acrylic, so you can wear this and throw it in the wash if you need to. And what you will need for this is a worsted weight yarn. You'll need a pair of size 8 knitting needles. I chose to knit this flat on circular needles, but you could also knit it on straight needles. These are bamboo clover size 8 needles as well. And what I did was I cast on 82 stitches. So in the last cowl we cast on 100. We don't need to cast on as many because it is going to be a very stretchy garment, which is really kind of nice, especially if it's going to be any kind of a hat or a neck warmer, or a turtleneck to the top to your sweater. So I cast on 82 stitches. So 80 stitches using the long tail cast on, and then I add 2. This little 2 piece right here we're going to use when we seam this to make it a circle that we can wear. So you're going to do your long tail cast on for 82 stitches, and then you're going to simply just knit 2, I'm sorry, not knit 2, knit 4, purl 4 until the last 2 stitches, and then when you get to your last 2 stitches you will be ending on a purl 4, and then you're going to knit 2, and then you would simply repeat, and then you would purl those 2 stitches on the next row, the last 2 that you knit, you'll purl those. So, and then you'll do knit 4, purl 4 across the row, and you'll end on a purl 4. And then you'll flip it around again, and you just keep doing this back and forth. Knit 4, purl 4 across the row. When you get to the last 2, again you're going to knit 2 because you will have just purled 4, then you'll knit 2. And then you'll keep doing it in that method until you have reached as long as you want your garment to be. Now, I normally knit my cowls that I wear between 9 and 9.5 inches. You can make it any length you want. You could end it here if you wanted it just to be a very narrow neck warmer, or you could make it even longer so that it tucks under your coat or your sweater. So right now I'm at about 5 inches. So I'm going to knit this for me about another 4.5 inches. You can also adjust how big you make it. So this was 82 stitches. You may want to make it larger, or maybe you're making it for a person who is larger, or they don't want it as tight around their neck. So you can adjust this by using any multiple of 8 plus 2. So, you can do any number of stitches, make it any size you want, but it just has to be a multiple of 8 so that you make sure you get an even amount of knit 4, purl 4, plus your 2 stitches at the end for seaming. So I chose to knit this flat on circular needles, but you could also knit this in the round. If you knit it in the round, you can eliminate the extra 2 stitches, and it'll fit nicely on the size 16 circular needles. If you add more stitches to make it larger, you may want to add, rather change to a longer circular needle just to accommodate the extra bulk on your needles. So I've knit 5 inches. I have about another 4.5 inches that I'm going to knit on this. I'm going to continue that off camera, and I'll meet everybody back here. Okay, so here we are. We've completed knitting the number of inches that we want. I did about 8 inches on mine because it actually fit me pretty well. And now we are going to bind off in pattern. So we are going to bind off knitting the knits and purling the pearls. And I have another video showing how to cast off or bind off. Just knit your stitches. And you don't want to cast off too tight because remember, this is going to go over your head or whoever's head you're making it for. And then we are going to need a yarn needle, because as soon as we're done here, we're going to start assembling this so that it forms a tube. So have that on hand, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. I will continue binding off here in pattern, and I'll be back and we'll finish up our cowl. Okay, so we have finished binding off in pattern, and we have 1 stitch left. So we are going to take that off our needle, and we're going to need to cut a fair bit of a tail, because we're going to use our tail to weave in. I usually do about 3 lengths, maybe a little bit more than that, just to be on the safe side. I don't want to run out. And then we're going to just bead our last stitch right through and tie that off. Okay, so we've created our fabric to make our cowl. And we're going to need a yarn needle. And this is the edge right here that we had our 2 extra stitches. And you can see on the other side, that's not as noticeable. So the side that doesn't show those extra stitches, we're going to have that be this part right here. The extra is going to be the inside of the fabric. The completely smooth side here is going to be the outside. That's the part you're going to see. So we are going to line this up here, and we're going to line these up stitch for stitch. And we're going to take our yarn needle, and we're going to thread our tail through. Maybe a little bit hard to show some of this on camera because it's pretty small, but we're going to do our best. So bear with me here. These are our 2 extra stitches. And this is our, okay, yes. So this is going to be our inside. Okay, so there's a few different ways you can do this. I like to pick up the stitch here and pull this through. And then you're just going to go right through the end here and pick up this stitch and pull it through. Kind of tie that together. And you can do each stitch. You can see on the end of your needle here, you can pull that little bar that comes through and kind of tie that and just go back and forth between the two sides. And it kind of creates a knit stitch. See that little bar right there? Feel free to pause this and take a closer look if you need to. We're picking up that bar in between, and it's creating a stitch. And again, if you knit this in the round, you don't have the seaming process of this. I have a knitting machine also, and sometimes you create a straight piece of fabric so that you don't, so you definitely have to learn to stitch your projects if you need to make a tube. And make sure you don't get twisted. And make sure you're pulling it tight enough so you don't have a gap. And you just keep going up. And every now and then I take a look on this side to make sure, that it's looking decent on the other side. You could also put both sides together and just do a simple whip stitch if you want to. And then you just keep going, and this is what it's looking so far on the other side. And I will meet you back here. I'm going to finish this, and I'll meet you back here, and we'll completely finish it. Okay, so I thought I would come back on and show you the finishing part of this. So make sure you're getting this actual bar right here between your stitches, because what it's doing, so like I have to turn this so that I can see that. See how you have your V's, and I'm going up and picking up this bar right here. And then I turn this so I can see my V's, and I pick up the bar. And what it's actually doing is it's creating kind of a seamless join here where it actually just looks like knitting. Now on the other side, it kind of looks like a seam. So I was incorrect at the beginning when I said that this would be the inside. This is actually going to be your outside because this is the nicest looking part of the fabric. And this is okay, but you can definitely tell that this is where I joined everything. But this looks really nice on the outside. So we'll finish up. We have a few more stitches here. And obviously you can use whichever side you prefer. It's all about your own creativity. You have a lot of choices here, and you decide how you want your project. I think that's one of the things I like the best, is because I can make it exactly how I want it to be. And if your edge runs a little bit off, don't panic, because we can take this, run it right through here, and we are going to just stitch this together so we can weave our end. Go. And then on this part, I will actually pull my yarn to the inside. So this is the inside. And then I will weave my end. I just want to make a knot here. If for some reason it should come undone, I don't want everything to unravel. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera. And then I just weave back and forth the opposite way a few times, being sure I'm not coming out onto the front, because you don't want that to show. Okay. And then I will trim this off right here. And this is our join right here, which looks great. Looks like part of the fabric. This is the other side. It is nice and stretchy. One side is going to be a little bit more stretchy than the other. This is where we cast on. I have to weave this end in still. And this is where we bound off. Like I said, I'll show you a different kind of bind off that's even more stretchy than this in a coming video. But there is our cowl, all complete. If you made it this far in the video with me and you've completed your project, congratulations. If you've made it this far and you're ready to make yours, just let me know if you have any questions. It's very fun to make. They make great gifts. You can make them in all kinds of yarn. Worsted weight is what I used. I used Lion Brand Heartland. This is acrylic. You can use wool. You could use alpaca. You can use two different yarns held together, maybe a sock yarn or maybe a DK weight held together that'll give you a different look. There's some that have a little halo, kind of that fluffy stuff that kind of sticks off of the yarn that gives a really nice look to the cowl as well. It's around your neck, so soft is best, at least in my opinion. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming projects. Thanks for knitting with me today. I'll see you soon.